Include these powerful books in your library. The Holy Quran, Maulana Muhammad Ali translation. Special Spokesman by Brother Jabril Muhammad. The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews by the Nation of Islam Research Department. And the following titles by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Message to the Black Man. How to Eat to Live, Parts 1 and 2. The Fall of America. Our Savior Has Arrived. Records, videotape, and audio tape. You deserve the very best. By Clean and Fresh Products. Black-owned and produced, Clean and Fresh products are the finest in personal care. Liquid soap, deodorant, shampoo, conditioner, and lotion. These products are endorsed by the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. Introducing the newest addition to the Clean and Fresh personal product line, Aloe Fresh Body Cleansing Bar. Pure, light, and rich with skin conditioner. Aloe Fresh, made for everyday use, yet formulated for special skin care. Our special blend of aloe and lanolin helps make your skin feel softer and smoother. Aloe Fresh is pure, containing no pork or pork byproducts. Subscribe to the Final Call newspaper, the most widely circulated black newspaper in the world, the voice of truth. Advertise in the Final Call newspaper and expose your message to an aware, action-oriented readership. Support the 3-year economic program launched by the Honorable Louis Farrakhan on October 7, 1991. Designed to address the critical needs of the black community in the upcoming years, your monthly $10 contribution will help to establish farms and businesses that will meet the necessities of life and lay the foundation for our economic survival. Send your $10 a month donation to the 3-year economic program, 4855 South Woodlawn Avenue, Chicago, Illinois, 60615.
Careless lifestyles are killing us in droves across all ages. The merchants of death dump filth daily into our communities, and we put it into our bodies. It is best to make the most of this life and empower ourselves through healthful living. Let me share my thoughts with you on this special video. Call now to order.
Get Farrakhan's program for better health and the story behind his bout with cancer. To order, call now.
312-602-1230.
That's what I'm talking about.
At last, the hottest book of the decade is now here. A Torchlight for America by Minister Louis Farrakhan is the long-awaited book that offers true guidance and solutions to problems facing America. Written in clear, direct language, A Torchlight for America is required reading for those seeking the truth. Order your copy of A Torchlight for America. Send $12 plus $4 shipping and handling, check or money order to Final Call Inc., 734 West 79th Street, Chicago, Illinois, 60620. Or call 312-602-1230.
Thank you. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the press, for your attendance. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, the one God to whom all praise is due, the Lord of the worlds, the revealer of all truth and the sender of all prophets, to him alone do I submit and seek refuge. We thank Allah for his intervention in our affairs in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, the great Mahdi, to whom praise is due forever. And I thank him for the prophets and their scriptures. But as a student of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I thank Allah for raising him in our midst as his messenger to us and his warner to the United States of America. We are living at a time in history of the separation of peoples, nations, and individuals according to their characteristics. Allah, Almighty God, who is the master of this day of judgment, permits circumstances and events which try the human spirit to bring out of us whatever is within. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that Islam will bring out of us everything that is within us, good or evil. The events and circumstances of our time are manifesting our defects to ourselves as well as to others. If in the manifestation of defects we correct these defects, then we will be fortunate to relieve ourselves of the judgment and chastisement of God. Failure to correct our defects once they are manifested will cause the chastisement of Allah to befall us. In this hour, Allah does not desire the righteous to keep company with the wicked, the believer to keep company with the hypocrite or the unbeliever. In this hour, as it is written in the scriptures, every man shall go to his own and find refuge under his own vine and fig tree. This not only means that individuals will be returned to their own native land and people, but it also means that we shall be bound together according to our characteristics, the wicked with the wicked, the righteous with the righteous. This is that great hour of separation and the manifestation of defects. The Israelites, or the Jewish people, have been the recipients of many of the prophets of God. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught me that when a prophet appears, it is not a sign that things are right. It is a sign that things are not just wrong, but very wrong. It is the prophet's duty to point out the wrong of the people with truth and with justice, that the wrongdoers may correct themselves and escape the judgment of God. The prophets have never been loved by the wicked. All of the prophets have been falsely accused and lied on by the wicked to destroy the reputation and character of the prophet, thus destroying the standard that the prophet brings, that the people might not be able to see and judge properly the evil of themselves and the evil of the wicked. Any human being who represents divine truth cannot speak that truth properly without the aim and purpose of God's revelation being at the very core of his speaking and the manner of his representation of that truth. The Holy Quran teaches us that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was entrusted with a weighty word. What makes the word weighty? Certainly God's word is heavy, but the heaviness of the weighty word is the consequences that come if we reject the truth. We should never allow our manner of representation to give an excuse to the wrongdoer to reject the truth that might cause repentance and a change in conduct. The aim of God, who came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, the great Mahdi, in delivering truth and a weighty word to us is that we, the black people of America, might be raised from the grave of ignorance and mental death and reformed and put on the path of liberation and total independence. But that word is also revealed that our oppressors might be warned in a period of grace, that they might perhaps repent of their evil and escape judgment or be granted an extension of time. Remember, those who claim to represent God must be wise and careful of the manner in which we represent the truth. Otherwise, our expression could cause people to reject a truth that might save their lives. America, as a nation until recently, had not received a divine messenger or warner from Allah. The condition of injustice in America to the children of slaves, to the Native American, to the weak and the poor, is of such magnitude that Allah, God, raised a man from among us to warn the government and people of America of their behavior that has earned the judgment of Allah on this nation. Having to tell a proud and mighty people of their wrongdoing is not an easy task. And when one undertakes such task, that one or those ones or persons will not be loved by all. Prophets of God are not allowed to speak out of desire. They are not allowed to speak out of their own personal hurt and feelings. They have a duty to speak the will of God. Recent events surrounding the remarks by one of my ministers is causing intense concern among many people. Brother Khalid Abdul Muhammad spoke at Keene College at the invitation of the students. The students chose his subject for him based on the Nation of Islam's recently published book, The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews. During the speech, Brother Khalid made remarks that were not consistent with the proper representation of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, his teachings and guidance, myself, and the Nation of Islam. Therefore, in that instance, he was not representing us. He was representing himself. The president of this college is an Hispanic woman. The head of the Black Studies Department is a black woman. Both of these sisters are under tremendous pressure. The president of the college may lose her job unjustly because members of the Jewish community wish to make her an example to frighten other college presidents into not allowing any Muslim of the Nation of Islam to speak on their campuses. The students are quite capable of making their own judgment of Brother Khalid's words. However, since Brother Khalid was representing Allah, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, myself, and the Nation of Islam, it is incumbent upon me, if I find his remarks to be inconsistent with the teachings and guidance of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, to correct, rebuke, and discipline my minister and my student. I found the speech, after listening to it in context, vile in manner, repugnant, malicious, mean-spirited, and spoken in mockery of individuals and people, which is against the spirit of Islam. While I stand by the truths that he spoke, I must condemn in the strongest terms the manner in which those truths were represented. If Brother Khalid's statements were not made in the public and then brought to the attention of the national and international community, I would not then have to rebuke him in the public. In the Nation of Islam, we have rules, regulations, and laws that each member has accepted to be governed by. When we are in violation of these rules, regulations, and laws, or just in violation of the good manners of a civilized person, we are assessed penalties. We in the Nation of Islam cannot move at the urging of our friends or our foes. We have a process that we follow. And if that process is too slow for those outside of the Nation of Islam, then you must do what you must do. Yeah. But we must follow our process. I have warned my brother and Minister Khalid several times about his manner of representing the truth. I have told him that he is not representing himself, and that one day, if he is not careful, he might find himself clashing with me in the public, and that would not serve our best interest or the interest of our people, but would serve the interest of our enemies. I therefore have dismissed Brother Khalid from his post as minister, representative, and national assistant until he demonstrates that he is willing to conform to the manner of representing Allah, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, his truth, his guidance, and his aim and his purpose for us in America in a manner that would be pleasing to Allah, his messenger, myself, and the nation. However, Brother Khalid is still a member of the Nation of Islam and has accepted my discipline. Brother Khalid's remarks, no matter what is thought of them, they are not the real issue. I must repeat that. Brother Khalid's remarks, no matter what is thought of them, are not the real issue. Those remarks, spoken to a small audience of less than 150 persons, are almost 2 months old. The Anti-Defamation League chose to give the remarks lifted from Brother Khalid's speech a national and international platform in a full-page paid advertisement in the New York Times. What was their aim and purpose? Their aim was and is to destroy the reputation and character of Louis Farrakhan in the eyes of the world, and to ultimately destroy the Nation of Islam. Their desire is to destroy the unity of the Nation of Islam with any of the established black leaders. Their desire is also to destroy any acceptance of Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam by the black church or by white people of goodwill. They desire that no institution, civic or governmental, recognize or praise Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam for the work that we are doing in reforming our people. In view of the events that are transpiring, a summit meeting should be called of black leaders to discuss this and other issues in private, to prevent a total rupture that would not be in the best interest of the suffering people that we all are attempting to serve. I have in my possession an internal and secret document put out by the Civil Rights Division of the Anti-Defamation League this January. I intend that all of you have a copy of this. This document reveals their strategy for dealing with Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam. In this document titled Mainstreaming Anti-Semitism, the Legitimation of Louis Farrakhan, which I will share with black leaders, organizations, churches, and others, the ADL raises the question, does Farrakhan's acceptance by the mainstream black community represent a newfound tolerance for anti-Semitism which the ADL must fight with every weapon at our disposal? What do these weapons include? One of the weapons identified by the ADL and mentioned in their document is their exploitation of, quote, some of the nation's top black political and civil rights leaders who have long been envious of Farrakhan's ability to reach large, enthusiastic audiences. The ADL has a history of spying, not only on black leaders, but all those leaders and organizations that have popular support, black, white, Arab, and even other Jews of whom they disapprove. The Anti-Defamation League seeks total control of the masses of Jewish people, many of whom would have dialogued with us if it were not for the wicked aim and purpose of the ADL and its leadership. Why have not the black leaders denounced the ADL for spying on, keeping dossiers on our leaders, cooperating with the federal government in its attempts to destroy, discredit, and disqualify black leaders and black organizations? Why have not our prominent leaders organized a protest against the ADL when the truth of the wicked machinations of this organization were made known? Why have these leaders not called on Abraham Foxman and the board of directors of the ADL to denounce their spying activities and to distance himself and the organization from this illegal practice? The silence of black leaders on this issue is deafening. In view of the history and the practice of the Anti-Defamation League, this organization must be considered anti-black and even anti-American. Crime and violence was the #1 topic in the President's State of the Union address and is the #1 topic on the minds of the American people. This means that at the root of this #1 topic is the spiraling crime and violence in the black community. When I came to New York City on December the 18th, 1993, to address a Stop the Killing rally at the Jacob Javits Center to nearly 25,000 persons, I asked the men in that audience if they would be willing to be disciplined and then in turn discipline our community, that our community may be safer and more decent a place for us to live. Approximately 10,000 black men stood and stated that they were willing. And I then stated that I would return. And when I returned to New York on January the 24th, 1994, it was not for the purpose of denouncing Khalid Muhammad. It was for the express purpose of beginning the process of disciplining black men that we in turn might discipline our community, making it safer for all of us to live. I called on black men, and by God's grace, they answered my call. I addressed 12 to 15,000 black men, with thousands more having to be turned away for the lack of space. Most of the media could not focus on one thing of value that I said to my people. Most of the media did not comment on such a peaceful meeting of so large a gathering of black men. They did not comment on the pledge that each one of these men took to never harm one another again and to work to make our communities safe and decent. The fact that the media initially made very little mention of this historic meeting is all the more remarkable considering the great number of media representatives that were present. My focus on that night was not to be Brother Khaled's words. My focus was helping black men to become responsible for taking our lives into our own hands and committing us and them to fight the spiraling crime and violence in our community. The white media's focus initially was on the fact that I did not disassociate myself from Brother Khaled's remarks. Therefore, I did not satisfy their eager expectation by denouncing Brother Khaled. This suggests that my good works and the good works of the Nation of Islam will never be the focus of the media until I make peace with the Jewish community on its terms. The ADL seeks to promote division. They hate the Reverend Jackson. And they hate Louis Farrakhan. And nothing would please them more than to be able to use him against me and me against him. 30 years ago, around this very season, the most popular minister of the Nation of Islam, Malcolm X, made a statement from which the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had to disassociate himself and the Nation of Islam. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad rebuked Malcolm publicly, and Malcolm chose to leave the nation and attempted to discredit his teacher. The aim of the ADL is to create divisions both on the outside of the nation, in the black community, but more importantly, within the ranks of the Nation of Islam. They would love to use Reverend Jackson and civil rights leaders against the rising tide of black youth and the rising tide of anger and resentment over injustice that permeates the black community. And they would hope to produce another schism within the nation by exalting Brother Khaled's remarks to produce a conflict, hoping that he would resist my discipline and become an enemy against his leader and teacher, as it was 30 years ago. I believe, by the help of Allah, that their plan is doomed to fail. For there is an axiom that states, if we do not learn the lesson of history, we are doomed to repeat them. False reports of my alleged defense of Brother Khaled's remarks have become so pervasive that even the Vice President of the United States of America, Mr. Al Gore, has used the power of the Chief Executive Office to give more credence to a lie. His response points out the possible collusion between the ADL and the United States government, not only in sharing intelligence files, but also in shaping policies at the highest level. I, therefore, am calling on the Black Caucus, the NAACP, Reverend Jackson and the Rainbow Coalition, black churches and black leaders to review their relationship with the ADL in view of its wickedness against our people. I am calling on the black community. I'm calling on the black community to alienate this spy organization and establish proper relationships with Jewish organizations, people, and leaders who are not as self-centered, bigoted, and malicious as the ADL. The obsession of the ADL with my destruction and the destruction of the Nation of Islam has blinded them to the terrible need in the black community for a unified programmatic approach to solving our problems, and the position that I and the Nation of Islam occupy in that approach to the solution of our problems. This obsession has also blinded them to the need for the utilization of Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam in America to reduce the spiraling rate of crime and violence, particularly as it affects the black community. To the black leaders, what happened to our agreement that if we had any criticism of one another, we would call each other and go behind the door and speak frankly and candidly to one another? Why could not I have been spoken to and a meeting arranged with me to discuss this issue and how we should handle it, so that this issue would not be allowed to fracture our budding relationship nor destroy the hope in the black community that was created by our budding but fragile unity? I would have expected that we would have grown to a level of wisdom, that we would be able to call one another into a room and rebuke, admonish, correct, and cajole each other into the doing of what is right and what is in the best interest of our people. However, we should correct each other out of the spirit of love and a desire to see our brother or sister walking rightly. Correcting one another in the public for the purpose of currying favor with our enemies is repugnant. And this disqualifies us as sincere spokespersons or leaders of our people. But the masses of black people are not fooled by all of this. The masses of black people, by the grace of God, can see. They are standing firm with the Nation of Islam, and they are standing firm with Minister Farrakhan. In closing, I should never be called on by any of you to distance myself from my own brother. I have never distanced myself from any member of the black community. I love all of our people, the drug addicts, the drug pusher, the pimp, the prostitute, the lowlife. All of them are victims. And why would I love them? Why was Jesus seen associating with the publicans and the sinners? The answer is it not the sick who need a doctor? No doctor can distance himself from his patient. I can never distance myself from my brother, nor will I throw him to the vicious wolves who wish to destroy him, myself, and all of those who are foolish enough to do their bidding. I would like to thank all of you who know me and had patience enough to wait for me to respond. In my job as teacher and reformer, I pray that the college you see today, by the grace of Allah, will not be the same college that you see tomorrow, that he, like we, will continue to evolve into more perfect representatives of the Word of God. I would also like to thank all of those who have suffered undue pressure because of the ADL's desire to have you denounce me, I thank you for waiting. I know that nothing that I say or do here today will please the ADL and other enemies of the rise of black people. And neither do I make this response seeking any approval of my enemies, nor needing the approval of my friends. However, as long as what I do is right in the sight of Allah, I trust that what I do will be right in the sight of the righteous. Although I earnestly desire the unity of black leadership and to be a part of that unity, to work for the good of our people, however, those who are unable to abide in truth may distance themselves from me and from us. And if working with me proves to be too much for you, then do what you must do. I, Louis Farrakhan, am not dependent on relationships with any organizations or individuals for my security or my success. I depend solely on my relationship with Allah. And as long as that relationship is secure, so am I. Thank you for listening. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, my chief of staff will acknowledge you, please.
Thank you very much. For those who would like to pose a question to Minister Louis Farrakhan, please stand and state the news organization that you're associated with, and I will acknowledge your hand. Start with this lady.
My name is Joya Jefferson, and I'm the senior producer of Evening Exchange on WHMM-TV here in Washington, D.C. We are the only black-owned station in the PBS system, and because I cannot speak to you directly, I would like to invite you to join us. We have an hour-long talk show where you can speak to the Washington media and the world uninterrupted and unedited. The show is called Evening Exchange, and we are WHMM-TV. My question is, because we are now here to sort out fact and fiction, there was a story that circulated maybe a week ago that the chairman of the Congressional Black Caucus, Kwesi Mfume, said that he was going to make no statement about the minister's statement to the university until you responded to a letter that was sent to him. Did you receive a letter from Kwesi Mfume? How did you respond to that letter, if that's true?
Yes, ma'am. I did receive, first of all, thank you for inviting me to your show. I will certainly take that under advisement. I did receive a letter from Representative Mfume about 12 or more days ago. I told him in my response to him, which he received yesterday, that we had to go through a process. You know that I cannot take what the media says of my brother's words, knowing how they have distorted my own. I first had to get a tape. And after getting that tape, I had to listen to it carefully. And then I had to call my brother and minister to discuss the tape and my disapproval or approval. After that process was done, I would then determine and make a judgment. After that process, I could write Chairman Mfume and inform him. But I did not wish to inform him of the judgment and the decision that we had made within the nation, because I did not want to be preempted in what I had to say this morning. So I did give him a letter, and I saw that letter flashed on ABC's Nightline last night.
Excuse me, gentlemen.
Television station.
Yes, sir.
In your criticism of your colleague, you referred to the manner in which the truth was represented. Is it the truth, in your view, that black people in this country or around the world have a legitimate gripe with Jewish people, Catholic people, white people in general?
That most certainly is the truth. I just wanted to cite something for you. You know, my brother Khaled spoke a lot of truth. And the truth that he spoke from the Bible and Quran, I am in agreement with. The truth that he spoke of the divine teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad concerning the nature of the two people, black and white, I agree with. The truth of this book, which was the discussion or the subject matter, the secret relationship between blacks and Jews, I agree with. I have in my possession here some quotes from this book that state that Jewish people, not only Gentiles, not only Arabs, but Jewish people were prominent in the slave trade. If they were prominent in the slave trade, and by the way, this book is not written by the Nation of Islam. These are quotes from eminent Jewish rabbis and scholars, none of whom are considered anti-Semitic. They have said that Jews were slaveholders in Curaçao, in Suriname, in Barbados, throughout the Caribbean. Jewish scholars have said that 75% of the slaves owned in the South were owned by Jewish slaveholders. They said that Jewish slaveholders used to cut off the hand of those that fought for freedom and give it to others or sell it to others. They said, we didn't say it, they said it. If Brother Khaled had just quoted the book, nobody would have been able to condemn him or call him anti-Semitic. They said, listen, or we say, that the same man that the Simon Wiesenthal Center used to try to trash this book, a Dr. Brackman. We have that man's doctoral dissertation, which is unpublished. But in his doctoral dissertation, he agrees with everything that we said in this book. And he also went further to say that the Jewish Talmudic scholars were the ones who invented the myth of the curse of Ham. That all these black people all over the world who are Christians have suffered the mental anguish of believing that we are black because of some divine curse. Yes, we have an argument, a strong argument. Now, we have a strong argument with Catholics. I'm not trying to be ugly, but the ugly truth is that neither the popes nor the church spoke out in our defense when we were being lynched and burned and hung. They didn't speak out. Yes, we have a gripe, if that's the word you use, with white people in general. Because whites in general are the beneficiaries of the wealth of our slave labor that has been kept back from us by fraud. Yes, we have a gripe with the United States government because the government used our tax dollars to spy on black leaders and organizations, to turn one against the other, to assassinate our strong spokespersons, to upset our desires for progress, to destroy our leaders like Marcus Garvey, Noble Jew Ali, Martin Luther King, all of the leaders that spoke out boldly for us. Yes, we have a gripe. I am not bitter or hateful, but I must speak truth. Brother Khalid reflects the anger, the hurt, and the pain of black people who suffer injustice all over this planet, and that pain is compounded by a frustration that we are unable to change the circumstances of our lives. But as a representative of divine truth, he must not let anger, bitterness, or hatred poison the speaking of the Word of God. Thank you for your questions. Yes, ma'am.
Lynn Duke from the Washington Post. I have two questions. One just quick follow-up. The first question is, when you counseled Minister Khalid, did you counsel him against feeling the sentiments that he expressed against Jews, or did you counsel him merely against expressing those sentiments?
I don't counsel people against feelings, especially when those feelings are dictated by truth. You know, people love based on truth or falsehood, and people hate based on the same. So to counsel in feelings, no, because all of us have feelings. But to counsel that your feelings should not be allowed to distort the beauty of the truth, because our appeal is not only to black people, but our warning is to white people. And if we make that truth so filled with bitterness and hatred that it becomes repugnant, people may turn a deaf ear and then lose their lives. So that is what I counsel him on. You know, honest and truthfully, someone gave it to me.
Mr. Farrakhan, when did the controversial statements of Mr. Collins first come to your attention? And do you believe you would have taken action against him, or physical action against him, if it had not been for the ADL New York Times article?
To be very honest, I heard of something of his remarks right after my speech in New York City on the 18th of December. As you may recall, I spoke there, and when I left New York, it was told to me that Brother Khalid was on the news a few nights later, juxtaposed to myself. And that's when I began to hear of what was said at Keene College. I left the country, and I had been gone for nearly 3 weeks. And during that time, the controversy was raging. When I got back, I received a copy of the tape. In fact, I received a copy of the tape on I think it was the 22nd of January.
Thank you.
On television. You alluded earlier to Vice President Gore, but individual politicians aside, do you believe as an institution and as a whole, the government of the United States
sir, I think you may be even more aware than I of the policies of the United States government. The fact that a few years ago, when the Reverend Jackson was running for the nominee of the Democratic Party for President of the United States, I was sitting on the Sandy Freeman show on CNN when a call came in that the Senate had censured me. The Senate. And at that time, there were 95 members of the Senate, not one of whom was black. Today, however, we are fortunate to have one black senator. We would not be singing "We Shall Overcome," and we would not have so many cases of injustice sitting in the Justice Department not being acted upon. We would not be out of work, poor, and raggedy if we didn't have some racism at the highest levels of government. Really, the question is academic. And the sad thing about this is that those who have been so wicked would now reach and call a victim of racism a racist. You know, one of the former members of the Congress, our brother Gus Savage, wrote a wonderful definition of racism. You know, you can't really be a racist by talking. Really, racism has to be coupled with a sense of real power to enact what you say. Brother Khaled, out of his anger, spoke of killing. I rebuked brother, because vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. And you know, the sad thing is, whenever one black person says something that white folk don't like, you always try to find someone of our brothers and sisters that you trot out. Right. To beat up on a black brother. Well, while we say his manner was wrong, his speech, etc., here's his speech. How many of you now will repudiate not the speech of white folk, but the deeds of white folk? You see, what Khaled said is just rhetoric, because he does not have the power to do one thing that he suggested. And if Nelson Mandela becomes president tomorrow, even if he wanted to do what Brother Khaled suggested, he does not have the power to do that. However, Christopher Columbus landed here, and there were 15 million Native Americans in the Caribbean. They're gone now. Somebody didn't talk about it. Somebody killed men, women, and children. George Washington, who is on a $1 bill, is honored and respected, and nobody has repudiated or asked anybody to repudiate him. But he was the Indian killer before he became president, and he killed Indians from Virginia all the way to Canada, and he killed men, women, and children. General Amherst, whom a college is named after in his honor. Nobody's repudiating him, but he's the one that put smallpox in blankets and sent them up on the Indian, not reservation, but where the Indians were, to kill who? Men, women, and children. When Truman decided to drop the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, he didn't say what Brother Khaled said, but he did kill men, women, children, blind, crippled, crazy. And when we came over, not on the Nina, the Pinta, or the Santa Maria, but in the holds of ships, millions of us lost our lives. Men, women, children. Now, if we can repudiate it for his work, who will repudiate America for her deeds? And I will close. I will close on that point on the day that President Clinton took office. He ordered a bombing of Baghdad. It was supposed to be a surgical strike of just intelligence gathering building. But unfortunately, some of the guided missiles got misguided. And men, women, and children were killed. When Muammar Gaddafi's residence was bombed with the purpose of killing him, he survived, but women and children did not. And so, look, when you ask black people to stand up and repudiate Brother Khaled's words that are nothing but angry rhetoric, then every black man and woman of conscience should say, yes, Brother Khaled, you should not speak like that. We understand the hurt, but it is not why, in the midst of a people who are ever getting more and more conservative and anti-black, don't talk about killing men, women, and children when your people are on the firing line. That's not wise. It's not proper. But when you repudiate him, then somebody else should stand up and say, well, let's talk. Not about his words. Let's talk about why millions of black people in Africa today are dying of AIDS. Because somebody sent them infected blood. See, you have to deal now with these. God may judge us for our incorrect words and chastise us if we continue. But what is God going to do about the unjust deeds and no justice that has come to those who are victims of those deeds? Think about it. That's all I want you to do. Just think about it. Two more questions.
From the National Partner Wire. One of the things that I wanted you to elaborate on is the summit, but also Minister Muhammad must have been a good minister. He must have done some things to get to the point where he was. Can we get an idea of what kind of person he is beyond those words?
Okay. Brother Khaled is a brilliant, highly gifted, committed human being to the rise of black people. I am like his father in this work. I first met him as a student at Dillard University in 1967. And it was there that he heard the call to Islam, and after that became a follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. In my effort to rebuild the work of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he was one of the first to come by my side. And when I had no security, just standing up teaching, I would see Brother Khaled standing beside me with a Bible in his hand. And I wondered why he was standing with the Bible. And one day, he opened the Bible, and he had cut the Bible out. And in the Bible was a pistol that he had to defend his brother. I had to say, no, Brother Khaled. we don't need that. Brother Khaled is like a stallion. A beautiful black stallion. And it takes God to ride such a gifted horse. He will buck. That's his spirit. He's a warrior. His spirit is his love for his people. I've seen him go out and sit on the sidewalks with the most degraded of our people, put his arm around them, take them and bring them to the mosque and get them a bath and get new clothes and put it on the brother. I've seen him jump out of his car and stop black brothers from fighting and killing each other. I know it's hard. He's hurting inside for the injustice to his people and the constant escalation of death, and he knows where it's coming from. But I would caution my dear brother, be patient. Because no matter how angry he is, and no matter how much he wants to see justice, see the shaking that took place in California, you can't blame that on some terrorist. You call it an act of God. And that's the power. The flood that came in the Midwest, you can't blame that on some terrorist. That's an act of God. Can't you see the increase of calamities on this nation? You must stop and think something is wrong. You can make Brother Khaled the scapegoat. But don't let that be some balm for your guilt. For Brother Khaled is what he has earned, and for you is what you earn.
I'm from the NBC program Now, and looking around seeing all these cameras, we talk about words versus deeds, and it's clear that there's more words getting covered. Does it frustrate you that some of the deeds of the organization, positive deeds, don't get this kind of coverage?
Well, I'll tell you, sir, in a parable, my teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, said to me one day before he departed from us, he said, brother, there once was a donkey that fell in a ditch. And everyone that came by took up a stone and threw it at the donkey. And they threw so many stones at the donkey till they filled up the ditch, and the donkey walked out. So he said, brother, remember, every knock is a boost. The press reflects the fear and the anguish of whites in general. And so when I came to national public attention, it's understandable that I would be beaten up like that. But as you get to know me better, through these kinds of things, you will see that I'm not a boogeyman. And you will see that I do not wish you evil. You will see that I am deeply concerned about what's happening to our people in America, and I'm deeply concerned with what is happening to America. Well, at first, if you don't like me, and then maybe after a while, you'll see some value in me. So the media has come out to hear what I had to say, and I'm very grateful. What they do with it tomorrow is another thing entirely. But hopefully, at some point in the future, the media will see Louis Farrakhan cleaning up black people, reforming black people, turning black people towards self to love one another, not turning them against white people to hate you. For in reality, you cannot stop us from doing what God requires of us if we don't stop ourselves. That's right. So the burden is no longer white people. We have to get our own foot out of our own way, and all the progress that we want to make, God will assist us in making that progress. And so I will close with this little anecdote. I want to say categorically, this sister has been raising her hand. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Asantwa Beret. I work for a small local paper in Washington called the Pan-African News. First of all, let me say Assalamu alaikum to my brothers and sisters of the Nation of Islam. Let me secondly say to Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam, thank you. We know we don't often say it to each other enough, but we need to say thank you to the brothers and sisters of the Nation of Islam for their over 60-year history of cleaning up and reforming our people. Thank you very much. Then I have a question. Mr. Farrakhan, let me assure you that many of us, if not most of us, are not only independent of mind, but we're also independent of pocketbook. Okay? Mr. Farrakhan, I've heard you speak many, many times. You are a very brilliant teacher. So I think for our people gathered, give me a history lesson. You should give us one. Many people call you and the Nation of Islam anti-Semitic, but when you ask them to define what is a Semite, they cannot answer. So my brother and my teacher, I would respectfully ask you to please teach us and instruct us on the difference between a Jew, a Zionist, a Semite, and a Hebrew. Thank you.
Now, this will be the last question. I wrote something, I don't know where it is, on anti-Semitism. Well, it's all right. I think I know what I wrote. You know, we have been charged with this. And I really want to state here for the press and for the world that I denounce anti-Semitism in all its forms and manifestations. I denounce racism in all its forms and manifestations. If I believed that I were an anti-Semite, meaning somebody who hates somebody else simply because of their faith, I would be unfit to call myself a servant of God or a member of the righteous. I am not now, nor have I ever been anti-Semitic. Now, what is the definition, the true definition of that word? Well, we know that anti means against. And Semite is referring to those persons who originated in the Middle Eastern area of the world that have a base in African, Asian language and culture. Among these are Jews or Hebrews, Arabs, the Phoenicians, all of that group in there. The languages are Aramaic, Hebrew, Arabic, and one or two more. These are the Semitic people. Now, The ADL has narrowed that definition to mean exclusively anti-Jewish. Now, to be a Jew, is it a race or is it a faith? But there are those who see it as a national identity that does not have anything to do with faith. Now, in Israel today, there are several kinds of Jews. There are the Falasha Jews, the Sephardic Jews, the Ashkenazi Jews, all of whom are bound by the common denominator of faith, but race has come in there to play a negative role, because the Sephardic Jews and the Falasha Jews are not really equal in sharing power in Israel. So now when you talk about anti-Semitic, according to the definition, if I were against that body of people, I might find myself against myself. So now I must ask the question, why do they use that term? For what purpose? The ADL and other Zionists use the term to stifle legitimate criticism of Zionism and the state of Israel and the Zionist policies of the state of Israel. They also use that term to stifle legitimate criticism of the errant behavior of Jewish people vis-a-vis their relationship with the non-Jewish population of the world. This is not right. The Jews cannot be held above criticism. And if a prophet is to point out your wrong, don't accuse the prophet of being anti-Semitic when the prophet's role is to change your behavior to make you more acceptable to God. And this is why the prophets were killed and beaten and imprisoned. And this is why many of us are suffering from a false charge, anti-Semitism. Now, whenever the ADL and the Zionists feel that somebody is not bowing to their will, they drop that on them, anti-Semite. Now, Mayor Dinkins has done everything to please Jewish people except just go on outright and say, I've changed my faith. But he was accused of being anti-Semite. Mayor Tom Bradley had a magnificent relationship with Jews in the city of Los Angeles for 20 years, but when he didn't do what they wanted him to do in denouncing me as quickly as they thought he should, they charged him with being anti-Semitic. And because Nelson Mandela visited Libya and Arafat, if you recall, Mr. Koppel wanted Mr. Mandela to say something negative against those persons, which he said he could not do. And some have called Nelson Mandela anti-Semitic. They've called Jesse Jackson anti-Semitic. They've called Percy Sutton anti-Semitic. They've called Andrew Young anti-Semitic. These brothers are not anti-Semitic. And if they have legitimate criticism of Jews and their relationship with black people, why can't you accept the criticism and then see if it's true and then correct yourselves? But to say, ooh, look at them, they hate Jews, they hate us all, this is a bold lie. And it's wicked at the core. Lastly, Even President Bush and members of his cabinet were called anti-Semitic because they were acting too slow on a $10 billion loan or gift to the state of Israel. So I'm saying to you, there's an old saying that I heard. It used to be that an anti-Semite was one who disliked Jews. Now anti-Semite is anyone the Jews dislike. Thank you, and may God bless all of you as I greet you in peace. Assalamu alaikum.
For those of you who have requests for Minister Farrakhan or cards, please see Brother Arif Muhammad, Minister Farrakhan's regional representative in this area. Thank you.
I am so glad I came because he spoke my sentiments, and I think he spoke the sentiments of every black person. I will be 75 years old next Wednesday, the 9th of February, so I know what we have been through. I know what he was talking about, and I hope that the youngsters today will take the message that he has given us, because we have to learn our history. And he gave us a history lesson. He gave us a lesson, something that we should take to ourselves, to our children.
As always, Minister Louis Farrakhan has shown himself to be a very eloquent, charismatic, and informative speaker. I would trust that the things that he has said will be seeds of thought and reflection for not only the Nubian or Bilalian or African-American press members who were here, but particularly the European press members as well. I traveled from Maryland today to be here because I felt that I did not want an edited version to come back to me via the airways of major media corporations, but I wanted to hear and see for myself how the minister would handle and inform on the situation. I must say I am in no way disappointed that everything that the minister said I found to be very intelligent. I found it to be formidable. I did not think that it was in any way intertwined with hype or, should we say, dodging of central questions. I also would trust that the black leadership, so-called black leadership of our community, will take very, very careful heed to the discussion and the issues that Minister Farrakhan has raised, and that in his guidance and his wisdom, we can find a source of direction and guidance. Not the only source of direction and guidance, but certainly a very formidable one. I feel blessed of Allah that I've been able to be here today and to witness, and my spirit bears witness that the truth has been represented and the righteous have been served.